Hey everyone, welcome back to The Hustlers. And in this new episode of Chit Chat with The Hustler, we are having a perfect example of a hustler. A person who started hustling at the age when he decided like he wanted to do something big. He founded three of the businesses, and the amazing fact is the first business he found when he was 20, right? So he is a perfect example of a hustler. We are talking about the acquisition leader of the RedHat, Mr. Bradley Wu-Byrne. He is a person who is having experience, knowledge, leadership, and whatnot. And I bet if you guys will see this podcast, you will get a thorough knowledge about leadership, about business, and also you will get a lot of motivation. So without any wasting of time, let's get started.
So hello Bradley, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity. It's something I've been looking forward to all week.
So thank you for joining, thank you for giving us your precious time. We have some questions for you. We will be asking them one by one, starting from me. I was going through a profile. I got to know that you have established three businesses right now. Like you have already worked in a job. Also you have founded two companies and co-founded one company. Like if I go to details, it's a micro IT company you founded in 2005 at age of 20. Then your second company was it's Japan branch, which you founded in 2007, which you were the co-founder of that company. And the third one is ePhone, which you founded in 2015. Okay, so you have founded three companies and you have already worked as at many posts in different companies. So basic question is, now you are acquisition leader at RedHat. So why you choose job over a business? So for all freshers, for all students who are pursuing or they wanted to run a business or a startup, what do they aspire? If they want to run a business, should they continue with a job or take that risk to run a business? You will be the best person to answer that question, I guess.
Sure. I'd be very happy to. And it's a great question, actually. And it's one that I've been asked many times over the years, to be honest. And, if I wind back the clock to when I was around 20 years old, and actually probably around 17, 18 years old, I was already had this kind of business mindset, this entrepreneurial mindset from a very young age, because I actually didn't complete high school. I finished in Australia year 11 and I chose to not go to university. And my parents actually were very supportive of that. And they didn't force me to go and pursue university. They obviously wanted me to go and find myself. So they let me go do that. And when I was very young, I was actually, I used to spend a lot of time just teaching myself new things. And at the time, I was actually probably from the age of 13, I'd started playing with computers, and I was 13 years old when my parents bought our family the first PC for our house. And back then was very expensive, actually. And I know my parents, I come from a middle-class family, and my parents had to save up a lot of money to be able to afford that family computer. And I was always playing around with the computer and what have you. And then I decided to get a job and work for a training organization, actually. And I was managing all of the IT infrastructure there. I was supporting all the staff and external contractors. And in the background, I was building computers and PCs for my friends. And it actually started with, a bit of a hobby, I would say. And then it kind of morphed into a situation where I identified that I could actually earn a little bit of money from this. So I gradually started to make small profits along the way, and then I started to increase the profits. And while working in a casual role with this training organization, and one day I actually received a phone call from actually the accountant of this particular business that I was working for, and she said to me that she had some friends, actually a client of hers, that wanted someone to build them a new computer and what have you. And so I did that, and then they asked me to support them, moving forward. So it was kind of a light bulb moment for me, in that I realized that I could actually make something of this. So I would say I accidentally got into business. It wasn't something that was, I would say, always, something that I wanted to do, because at that time I was very young. So I was really doing a lot of that before the age of 20. And then I turned 20, and I had a bit of a conversation with myself and decided that, I can actually make something of this. I found that I was a very good people person, and I think that's important. When you're in the service business, you need to be good with people. And I've also found that I was able to build relationships with people quite quickly and build that trust, which is very important. So there I was going on this journey. And I would say, for the most part, not really knowing how to really run a business. So I registered a company and micro IT, and I developed my own website back then. And the company that I was working for, doing the casual IT work, they actually were very kind to me. They actually allowed me to have my own office within their office to run my business. So they allowed me to do both jobs at the same time. So in effect, I actually didn't need to pay for any office rent, which typically is a very big expense. So 6 months later, I reached a point where this business was actually growing quite quickly. Before I knew it, I was actually working with lots of small to medium-sized businesses, and they were all wanting to enter into some sort of service contract with me. So at that point, I recognized that I can actually create a situation where I can create reoccurring revenue for myself and for the business. And so obviously, naturally, I decided to stop working for the company that I was working for, and I went out and found my own office. And the business kind of really took off from there. I employed my first person, the first employee at that point. And I ran that business for 6.5 years. And 2 years into establishing the Australian operations, the business really started to generate some positive cash flow. And when I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to go to Japan and spend time with a family in Tokyo, and I became very good friends with that family, and we maintained a very close friendship. And strangely enough, the father was actually a businessman in the insurance and banking sector. Most of his career was across the insurance and banking sector. And I'd approached him and said to him that I wanted to open an office in Japan. It was always a bit of a dream of mine to have an international branch office. And I was in a position to take that quite seriously, in that I didn't speak Japanese. I spoke a little bit, but I actually needed a business partner. I needed someone that was as committed as I was. And of course, there was a big age difference between the both of us. And it took quite a bit of convincing, but he decided to give up his job. And, back then, it's changed now, but back then it was very rare for a Japanese person to move away from an organization they've been working with for many years. It's something that people traditionally did not do. Nowadays, it's changed a lot. People tend to move around in the same way that we do in Western countries. But he decided to join the business, and we actually were able to grow the business quite quickly because he had a lot of established relationships and contacts in the industry. So within a number of months of establishing the branch office over there, we were able to sign a couple of very large banks as customers. And we started out by just helping them with some very short-term engagements. And, that really helped us set up the business for success moving forward. So all in, I really did that business for about 6.5, 7 years, I think it was. And then kind of reached a point where, I felt like I needed to go find myself and go on a bit of a journey. So I decided to take a bit of a step back, take some time off, refuel, because I will say, and I'm sure you've had many conversations with other people that have gone into business before. Going into business is, a big commitment, and it also means that you need to make lots of sacrifices. When you're all probably around the age that I was when I started my first business, and those are the times when you need to really enjoy your life and go and party and do all of those things that young people do. I actually didn't do any of that. I used to spend Saturday nights in my office working, catching up on things, because I was everything in the beginning. I was the CEO, I was the CFO, I was the marketing person, I was everything. So it was incredibly hard. And as I mentioned before, I went into this blind. I didn't even know how to calculate tax. So all of those things, you learn by doing, you learn on the job. But I think, you really need to understand yourself. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So for your strengths, you focus on those things. And for the areas that you're not good at, you get external help. And thankfully today, there's so many services out there that allow you to get help at a very low cost. For example, freelancer.com. I've used that website a number of times. So if you want to put a project out there, lots of people will bid on the project. You can actually get work done very quickly. You don't necessarily need to go and work with the best accountant that you can come across that's out there. You can actually contract that work out very cost effectively. And those are the things that weren't really around, to be honest, 20 years ago, when I started my first business. So nowadays it's actually very easy. It's very easy to start a business in that all you need is, you need to register a company. You need to establish a website. You need some presence, and we can talk about this later. But it's actually very easy to start a business, and it was back then as well, but it's even easier now. You actually don't need a lot of capital to start. And the other thing is, a lot of people, they think about, I know this is one of the questions that might potentially come up a little bit later on. They think about, what will people think if I fail? If I start a business and things don't work out. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, no one is going to judge you in that way. The fact that you actually tried something is something quite impressive, because most people don't have the courage to go out on their own. And, for me, on a personal level, I'd been running my own business from a very young age. And as I mentioned before, I reached a point where I decided that it was time for me to take a bit of a step back, go on a bit of a journey, and really go find myself, because I had been doing this for such a long time from a very young age. I'd learned a lot. I'd made a lot of mistakes. Lots of good things happened to me, but also lots of very stressful things happened to me. And I especially remember was the 2008, the global financial crisis. That was an extremely hard time for me on a personal level as well. It really challenged me in lots of different ways. We had, and speaking openly with you all here, I remember we had a customer that actually went bankrupt and owed us quite a lot of money, and we were never able to recover that money. So what that meant is that money, you had to be written off, basically, in essence. And we actually owed money to a supplier of ours, because we were basically doing a refresh of this organization's PCs. So we had to acquire equipment, sell it to the customer. So in essence, that sum of money that customer owed us, that we weren't able to recover, we had to cover ourselves. So that was a very hard time for us, but we were able to push through, and we managed to to ride that wave. It was a very stressful year, that one. I still remember that year very well. But you can start a business very easily, and I would encourage you all to do that. And there's also nothing wrong with doing something on the side. I did that with Hayphone. I was working for a corporate. I was traveling prior to working for this organization I was working for at the time. But prior to that, I was doing a lot of travel and some travel in that particular job as well. But I saw an opportunity in the market, and I knew in the hotel space, I'd known a couple of close friends of mine were general managers of 5-star hotels in Australia. And I was thinking, over conversation one night with one of my friends, I said to him, what keeps you up at night? And his answer to me was ensuring that the hotel remains profitable at all times. And because it's not just guests staying at the hotel, they also need to run the restaurant and pay staff. It's actually a very high cost business. And he said to me that the hardest part for them is ensuring that the restaurants remain profitable. And most months they actually lose money from these restaurants, believe it or not. I actually didn't realize that. So then I saw an opportunity to help hotels in that space. How can I help them uplift their revenues, become more profitable in the restaurants? And how can I help them deliver a cutting edge guest experience? So I came up with a concept of placing a mobile phone in a hotel guest room. It's free. It can be used by the guest at no fee, so zero cost. And when they stay in the hotel, they can take that phone outside of the hotel. They can book room service on the device. They can use the internet. They can use things like Google Maps. They have access to things like booking tours and all of that on the device itself. But what it also had was an ability for the hotel to be able to push notifications to those devices, to the guest mobile phone devices, at the right times during the day to encourage them to have dinner in the restaurant, in the hotel. For example, I might get a message from the hotel at say 3:30 or 4 p.m. saying, "Hey, Bradley, hope you've had a great day. We'd like to offer you 2-for-1 drinks in the bar tonight, and we'd also like to offer you 20% off your bill if you dine in our restaurant tonight," things like that. So very engaging way. So what I did there was I actually leveraged the MVP process. It's a minimal viable product. I actually created the concept, bare bones, and I took it to my friend and asked him for some feedback. And I think that's the best way to start a business. If you have an idea, go socialize that idea with as many people as possible. And you can't be too worried about, your idea being taken by somebody else and somebody else going and, using your idea and building that. You can't worry about that, because chances are, the world is very big, right? Chances are someone's already thought of your idea before, as an example. So when I started Hayphone, I was doing that at nighttime while I was working for an organization during the day. And at that time, I have a young family now, but back then I was a single guy. So I could allocate that time to doing these kind of side hustles. And by taking the idea to as many people as possible and saying, "Hey, give me some feedback here. Do you think this is something that you would buy?" I think that is very important. It's very important because that feedback allows you to adapt the solution to ensure that it's the right market fit. Because at the end of the day, it's all about value creation, right? So if you have created a business and you've created a product that people don't want, chances are the business is not going to be successful. It's going to be very hard for you to make that business successful. because at the end of the day, you need to establish a need from people, and so that focus on value creation is actually very important. The other thing is you need to, I would say probably the most important part is you need to go really hard on the why. You need to ask yourself, why do you want to create a business? I've mentored and still do to this day. I mentor a lot of young people that want to go out and start a business. And I always feel very surprised when people say to me, the reason why I want to start a business is because I want to be rich. I want to make a lot of money. That will come. But if you go into business with just that mindset, you're setting yourself up to fail, for failure, in my honest opinion. You need to have a purpose, and you need to be able to clearly articulate what that purpose is. And it ties into what I just mentioned before. The quickest and easiest way to start a business, if you're building a product or a service or what have you, is to create the basic product or service offering, and then go get feedback from people, and then you can adapt along the way, and then chances are it'll work out for you. It takes time, but it also requires a lot of commitment and sacrifice along the way. So for me, I didn't take the traditional path of finishing high school and then going and getting a university degree or some other form of education. I didn't take that path. I took a very different path, and there's definitely been no regrets. I'm not the type of person that regrets things in life. It's been an amazing journey for me, and I've learned lots along the way, and as I said, it's been an amazing journey. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Like, it was very motivating. Like, I would say to all, like, if you wanna do, just do it. If you fail, you learn something new to get started again. So, like, your journey was really motivating for all of us. I would like now to Ananya to ask her question about the topic.
Hello, Brady. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm also good.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
So my first question for you is, as you are an acquisition sales leader at the RedHat, you must be having good experience in the field of sales. So a question is, in kind of business or a startup which requires some investments, to be done at an initial stage, or what should be the strategy according to you make the investment or worth, not in sense of returns, but in case of business growth in the long run? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And but my answer is this. It kind of ties into what I shared before. I think you need to ask yourself why. If you want to start a business, you need to ask yourself, why do you want to go into business? And if it's the alternative and you want to go and pursue university education or some other form of education, you need to ask yourself, why do you want to pursue that path? And I think you need to get yourself to a point where you're able to articulate that to yourself. I think that's very important. But for me, again, I mentioned this before, if you're going to go out and start your own business, it's about value creation to other people. You need to be able to add value to other people. That's fundamentally what consumers, businesses want. And the easiest place to start, and I've touched on this already, is if you're going to go out in business, I think it's very important to understand how you're going to initiate sales with people. Because at the end of the day, without sales is the engine room of a business, of an organization. Without sales, you can't pay the bills, you can't build a business, you can't grow a business. So that's very important. You need to be able to work out how you're going to generate sales for the business. The great thing about starting a business in this day and age, I touched on this before as well, you can register a company very easily. You can create a landing page website very cost effectively, very easily. You can also establish a social presence. Those things are free. Like establishing a Facebook and an Instagram profile to market your business. These things just require your time. Those things didn't really exist. I mean, Facebook existed when I was still running my business, but things like Instagram, and there's a number of other apps which I don't personally use, like TikTok and what have you. All of those apps will help you get your business name out there. I think it's very easy to create business these days. But again, I think the fundamental thing to really to take into consideration here is it's not about trying to prove something to someone. You need to do something for yourself. If you want to go out and build a business, it should be on your terms. It should be something that you want to do. You don't need to. Of course, it's nice to be able to make your family feel proud of you and all of those things. I mean, I experienced that. I know my family was very proud of what I achieved and still are today. But ultimately, you need to ask yourself the reasons why you want to start a business. And you can actually do both as well. You can actually study and do something on the side with the ability to be able to sell a product online through social media. I mean, this is very powerful. There's so many Instagram profiles I've come across over the years where people have actually created businesses from just really doing great marketing through social media like Instagram and Facebook and what have you. And this can be a very powerful thing if done right. So, yeah.
So, I have some questions, not regarding to this sales and all that stuff. Something different from this. You have to give the answers in one word or in one sentence only.
Sure.
Okay. What is your hobby?
My hobby, spending time with my family.
Nice. Are you a morning person or a night person?
I'm a morning person.
How many books you have read so far this year?
So I read a book a month. So I guess, somewhere around 8 or 9, I guess. Yeah, maybe even a bit more than that. Because of lockdown, I've been able to, save a lot of commute time and what have you. So I've been able to read a lot more.
What is your dream car?
Dream car. For me, I really love Rolls Royce and Bentleys. Yeah, I like luxury cars. Not so much sport cars, but more luxury cars.
So what makes you smile?
I think for me, it's just being around my family. This is the one thing that I'm grateful for every day, and I think everyone should be grateful for family. This brings a lot of happiness to my life.
And what makes you angry?
Those that know me quite well would know that I'm not one to get angry. I'm a very calm and composed person most of the time. I might get angry once a year. For me, I think I would say, if I was to say in one word, it's unreliable people. I really, in business and also personally as well, I've had friends come and go in my life, and in a business sense, I think that I hold myself to high standards, and I do expect the same in other people. So I wouldn't say that makes me angry, but I would say it gets me very annoyed. I find it hard to accept that, unreliable people.
What is your best childhood memory?
Childhood memory, I think just being showered with love from my parents. I was raised in a very loving family, and I still remember all of the time that my parents, especially my father, he used to dedicate a lot of his free time to me. I was very active with sports when I was growing up, so my father always gave me a lot of his time. My mother too, but more so my father, and I will always remember that.
So, which is better? What do you think? Which is better, certificates or experience?
Good question. For me, I think experience is nowadays, and this has always been my perspective, I think that experience holds a lot more weight. So if you're ever offered an opportunity to do some volunteer work or to be to do something that will allow you to get experience and exposure to something new, always take that offer up. I always have, and even throughout my corporate career, so not running my own businesses, but working for organizations, I've actually always asked to for an opportunity to be involved in some stretch projects. So to take on more responsibilities, to really test me in ways that I haven't experienced before. I really like to be thrown in the deep end and learn new things. I think that experience is invaluable. Yeah.
It is an amazing and an interactive session with you. It's great. So my friend Will wants to ask some questions to you. To you, please.
So, hey Bradley, I am searching a little bit about you on the LinkedIn, and I came to know that you have joined TAFE SA at a very young age of 30. So, I want to ask you, from where did you get these motivations? But means at this a very young age, it is like a boom for that for me.
Yeah, it's I forgot about that one actually. So I shared with you all before, when I was around 13 years old, when my family got their first computer and home computer, and I was always in trouble, to be honest, because I was always pulling that computer apart, and family would go and use a computer and it wouldn't turn on, and to be honest, it was driving my parents a little crazy. So we actually had a family friend who was working in the TAFE system. He was quite high up actually, and very smart individual. And he actually said to my parents, why don't we see if we can get an exception for Bradley to join TAFE, 10 hours a week, I think, when I was still in high school. And of course, that needed to be approved, which it was, but I also needed to get permission from my high school as well, and they were very supportive of that. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I'm not mistaken, this was a long time ago now, I was allowed to leave school at around 2:00, and I would catch the bus to the TAFE, and I would study a few hours. I would study through to about 6 p.m. at night, and I was learning how to design and program robots. It was lots of fun, and I also learned a lot about how to build PCs, electronic boards, and all of those things. And I did that for several years, and I was able to get a certificate out of that. But the sad, it's not really sad, but I reached a point in this particular course where I was just failing miserably the exams towards the end, and the educator, the lecturer, he actually called my parents in for a meeting and said, what's happening with Bradley? Is everything okay at home? And he's been going so well with the study, but he just suddenly started failing the exams. So we just wonder, is anything going on? And they said, no, everything's fine. And so the lecturer actually suggested that I go get my eyes tested. And the reason why I was failing was because I was colorblind. So I was reading these, capacitors. You have this electronic board inside a robot, and you have capacitors in there, and the different colored capacitors, and they each mean a different thing. And I wasn't able to read the correct colors, so I was choosing the wrong colors. So I was failing these exams. So the lecturer actually suggested to my parents that it's probably best if I pursue a different career path. And obviously I've done that. I've not pursued a career in electronics engineering. I can still do those things, strangely enough. I still remember how to assemble a circuit board and how to read instructions, but I'm severely colorblind with very dark colors, so I wasn't able to pursue that as a career. So yeah, that's the backdrop around that story.
Yeah, means that's cool that after the color blindness facing the problem, you have done such a great job. So according to the student's perspective, my question is related to about the financial conditions that especially I am talking about the India. Students are not taught about the things at this stage of our educational journey, which is a very great disadvantage. And since learning finance is really important for every individual, because it will not matter how much high pay job you have if you don't know how to manage it, and eventually one will fail finance success in the long run. So according to that context, what are your views? And we want to know that how it is important and what is the advantages of financial support and financially independent, being a financial independent.
Yeah. So I'll just add a disclaimer to this. Finance and accounting was not my strong point when I started my business. Like I think I touched on the fact that I didn't even know how to calculate tax on a sale. So you sell something to a customer, you need to add tax to that because you need to pay that tax back to the government, right? I didn't even know how to calculate that. So I really knew nothing about accounting and finance. So I would classify that as a weakness for myself. To be honest with you, the way that I addressed that in the beginning was I knew that it was a weak point of mine. So I engaged the services of an accountant and actually a bookkeeper to help me in this area. And I also asked that, every fortnight I'm given a report on the financial health of the business. And I always ask for a very clear and detailed explanation as to how I can read the documents, because I do feel that that's important. But in the beginning, I think from my perspective, just basic cash flow management, so understanding how that works, because at the end of the day, if you're starting a business, you need to be able to manage your cash flow. That's very important. And I think as you start to build the business, thankfully there's things like LinkedIn Learning. There's lots of platforms to be able to educate yourself around basic accounting tasks. And as on a personal level, when I was building the business, and I just shared that it wasn't my strong point, I actually did a lot of reading online. Back in those days, there wasn't LinkedIn Learning and all of these platforms where you can learn things for free, right? Those things didn't exist back then. But I used to do a lot of reading online so that I could understand how to read a balance sheet, how to read a financial statement. I think that that's really important, because at the end of the day, you need to understand that you're in the business of making money, and money goes out and money comes in, and you need to know how to manage that effectively. So for me, I always leveraged the services of an accountant and a bookkeeper. I'm sure that comes at a cost to the business, but again, I shared before around really documenting what are your strengths and weaknesses, and you focus on an individual level the things that you're really strong at, and for your weaknesses, of course you need to work on them, but you engage someone else to help you with those things, because if you try and do everything by yourself, that's when things go wrong. And I certainly had my fair share of those situations in the beginning. But I think they're the biggest lessons that I learned very early on in starting a business. I think it's very important to know when to leverage the services of someone else. And platforms like Freelancer, you can get a freelancer very cost effectively, accountant or bookkeeper or what have you, to help you with those tasks in the beginning. But I do think it's important to understand the basics, understand, as I mentioned, cash flow management, how to read a balance sheet and a financial statement. Fortunately for me, I married an accountant, so my wife is very good with numbers. So if I ever go out and start a business, at least I have a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, to join the business. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Means financial independent at the very young age feels us motivated and help us to grow more, and we will not need the more support from our family members. We can still in the time that we can manage ourselves. So my friend Rishabh is eagerly waiting for his turn. So Rishabh, you can carry on with your questions.
So first of all, hi Bradley, welcome to the Hustlers. I'm just waiting for my turn to come. Like, I was really enjoying the whole conversation. As being the founder of Hustlers, and we are just growing up as a startup. Like, we are starting off. I got to know a lot of things. Like, I am constantly listening you with my full concentration, and I would say, like, for like past 1 hour, I'm really enjoying it. Okay, so coming on to my part, my question is, like, if we talk about sales and finance in any of the business, these days we are seeing that branding and promotion plays a very important role. Like, if you see many of the businesses, they are mainly focusing on branding, and instead of spending a lot of money on their product, they are spending a huge amount of money on branding. So I wanted to know your opinion as a sales leader. Like, is it right to spend a lot of money on early stage or the initial stage of the startup?
That's a good question. So I'll share with you where I focused my time and effort when I started my first business, when I was 20, right? So I didn't, like most young people, I didn't have thousands and thousands of dollars just sitting there that I could allocate to build this business. Everyone's in the same position, right? So you need to be very smart about it. So for me, I started a business that is offering a service to the customer. So I used to actually door knock a lot of businesses when I wasn't busy helping another customer. So in between, I might be, I might have just had something to eat over lunch, and I would just decide, you know what, I'm going to go do some door knocking. And some people might think that that's a little old school. I mean, this was a long time ago, but these things actually work. It's just your time. I mean, time is money. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, and I mentioned this before as well, sales is the engine room of the organization. Without sales, you don't have a business. You can't grow a business, right? So for me, I think there always needs to be a strong emphasis on how are you going to go find the customers, right? In the most cost-effective way in the beginning, because reality is you're starting a business at a very young age, you probably don't have the financial backing that you all want. So you have to start somewhere. And I think for me, it is also leveraging your existing network. So if you're selling a product, you should be leveraging your existing friendships and all the people you know, and trying to sell your product that way. I think that's a really good place to start. I think that if you focus too much in the beginning on aesthetics, so spending a lot of time building a really nice website, actually those are the things that aren't really that important. And making your logo, your all of these things look really nice. I call them aesthetics, the look and feel of things. I think you're making a big mistake, in my opinion. I think that you need to start with the bare minimum, but have a focus on how you're going to generate sales. And if you don't have the capital to allocate to things like Google AdWords and paid marketing, then you need to do it the traditional way. You need to leverage your existing network. You need to start with that MVP, that minimal viable product. So just create something that is functional that you can go take to someone and ask for feedback before you start to invest a whole lot of money in building out a product. You start with the bare minimum and you focus on sales. And still to this day, I'm not running a business anymore, but I'm working for someone. And I can still say that even though I'm working for someone, you need to be thinking every single day how you're going to get that next sale. Because ultimately, as a salesperson, I help the organization pay its bills and pay its people and all of those types of things. So for me, it's just keeping it really simple. There needs to be an emphasis on how you're going to go about getting sales from the outset, as opposed to making sure that you've invested a whole lot of time and money into building a really nice website. I don't think those things are really essential in the beginning. They are important, but not in the beginning. I think you can get away with just a very, clear and concise landing page that people can go to. You need an online presence, but just a landing page, just one page that people can go to is enough.
I think like when you just start up, when you do, we all do not have, huge amount of money when we just do a startup and all. And you give a very good advice to all those people who just wanted to start and they think that for starting off some business, we need a huge amount of money, like a good laptop, products and all, good website. But just focus on your brand building, just focus on your audience, just focus on your product. So like this session is going great, and I would say thank you once again for coming to the Hustlers. If I talk about, like, if you talk about my takeaway, like the first thing is like start with work on your product. Don't think about money in the when you are in your initial stage. Second takeaway is don't fear of the age is just a number. You can start anything at any age, right? Thirdly, don't listen to all those people, what they will say and all. Just do what you want. College degree doesn't matter. And as the Hustlers tagline says, your skill will fill your pocket deeper than your college degree ever can. And you are the best example of the hustler. I would say the image of the hustler who is presenting those skills and selling off those skills without having the college degree. Thank you once again. It's been a really great to talk with you. And I would say to all the viewers, can you please ask all the viewers if they are seeing this podcast till the end to subscribe the channel?
Absolutely. Please, the folks on this call, dedicate their own precious time on the weekends to a great cause. So, like the video, subscribe to the channel, support them. It's not easy. It requires a lot of time and effort to produce, these types of conversations. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Bradley.
Time.
Right. So at last, actually, when any of the foreign guests come, like to meet on the phone calls and on the Zoom calls as well, we used to teach him a Hindi word, like any of the Hindi word, like namaste, like balle balle and all. So today I will say like namaste would be the great thing to teach you. Namaste in Hindi means greeting, hello. Mm-hmm. Okay. So on the count of 3, we all will say namaste to all the audience and thank you for listening to us, right? So 1, 2, and 3. Namaste.
Namaste.
Right. So to all those viewers who are listening to this podcast, thank you for listening to us. We'll be seeing you once again in the next podcast. Until then, keep learning, keep hustling. Bye.